And eights really trust their instinct, and so they're actually very good at having an instinctual read on what to do. This is 9 in 9, Enneagram Wisdom for Life. I'm Jen Stanley. Let's dive in. Hello, Enneagram 8. This is our challenger, and most Enneagram 8s that I know really embrace that title. Enneagram 8s are strong, and they are fiercely protective of their people, and I think sometimes Enneagram 8s get kind of a bad reputation on the Enneagram, and honestly, I experience 8s to be very big-hearted once you can get them to reveal that heart. So let's talk through the core four. The processing center of an 8 is the gut. It's the body, it's the sensation, the instinct. We call it the body triad or the gut center of intelligence because it's literal physical sensation in the body. It's not just a saying to say, oh, trust your gut. It's actually a physical sensation in the body. It's not emotion, it's physical sensation. And so the 8 is going to process environment, relationship, any kind of information through this instinct processing center. And 8s really trust their instinct. And so they're actually very good at having an instinctual read on what to do. They're action takers and doers. The core motivation of an 8 is to exert power so as to not be controlled. Now, I know that is a wordy definition, a wordy way to call their motivation, but I really think it encompasses what's going on. An 8 is highly and viscerally motivated to not be controlled by anything else. And so the way that they ensure that they will not be controlled is that they go ahead and use their own energy. They exert their own power, their own strength to make sure that that wall of protection stays up around them and no one can sneak in and control them. It's always on their mind. An 8 walks into the room and they know who's in charge first because they need to know who might try to be controlling and if they're going to submit to that or not. If an 8 makes a decision to follow the rules or to follow a suggestion, it's because they're making that decision, not because someone else is making it for them. I had an adult 8 in a class say that one time their parents were, when they were young, telling them they had to finish eating what was on their plate. And this 8 didn't like that at all because they didn't like their parents controlling what they were doing ever, right? So I'm sure if anybody's ever parented a child who's an 8, you totally know what I'm talking about. But this adult said that basically what they would say every time this argument came up of you must finish your plate is they would say, I'm going to finish it, but not because you told me to. And that is, in summary, the 8 of if they decide to follow along, it's on their own accord. An 8 avoids being vulnerable. They avoid being emotionally vulnerable, especially, but they avoid putting themselves in vulnerable situations where they might not be able to exert that power and stay in control of a situation. I've heard it said that the 8s have very few people that they fully trust and are comfortable being vulnerable with. So if you are in a relationship with an 8, that vulnerability that they show you is very, very sacred because maybe in their life they've only been really vulnerable with just a handful, a small number of people. And so you have to hold that trust and that vulnerability very, very carefully. The deepest desire of an 8 is to trust. And this comes from the lost childhood message of not being protected when they needed to be. 8s sometimes are known to have lost some of that childhood innocence too young. could be any number of situations. And like with all lost childhood messages, this doesn't have anything to do with whether you had good parents or terrible parents. This is just the gap that is there because of who you are and how you've processed the world and how you were created. That's the core four. Here are a couple of extra details that can be helpful. When an 8 is in a secure, trusting, safe environment, they move to the Enneagram 2. And so they become very caring and gentle and really looking out for other people. The protector that is naturally within the 8 really gets to shine in these situations where they can really lean into that 2. Now, when an 8 is under a lot of stress, they move to Enneagram 5. And what that can indicate is that they get very, very investigative. They control the situation by wanting to just learn everything they can about it and know everything they can about it and really kind of remove themselves from group thinking and really just go inward and get as much information and as much logic as they possibly can when they're under a lot of stress. So if you are out there and you are like, yes, I want to know my number and I want to do it in a thoughtful way, then contact me, because one thing that I love to do is to help people through this discovery process. And you can do that by just clicking on the link in the show notes that says Discover My Number. And what we're going to do is we're going to send you a highly trustworthy test. You're going to take that test. It's going to come back with 3 options, and then you and I will hop on a Zoom call together, and we're going to go through and interpret the findings and then help you take that next step to which number you should begin trying on first. So all you have to do is go to the show notes and go to the link that says Discover My Number, and that's going to take you to all the information you need to take that respected test and then have a consult with me. All right, I hope you never miss an episode. Hit the subscribe button and come back all month long as we utilize the wisdom of the Enneagram in 9 minutes or less for how to love our people well.